Welcome to another edition of the Let's Debate podcast, powered by Delahanty Media. My name is Nick Delahanty. The guy next to me, that's Kyle Delahanty. We'll bring him in just a second. Normally, we are live on Thursday nights, but of course, you guys know how it is. Certain circumstances do arise and things happen. We're not able to go on live this Thursday night. However, we didn't want to miss out on an opportunity to do a show, so here we are. It's recorded for you guys, and we'll be back on the airwaves next week, same time, same place. Kyle, how's it going?
It's going well. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. It's just another one of those weeks where we kind of had to work around busy schedules, but we're still getting our weekly showing. Last week, I think we had a pretty nice episode. We had really good conversation. If you guys haven't been able to check that out yet, Nick and I discussed the Last Dance recap. And if you're unfamiliar with the Last Dance, it's basically a documentary that was on ESPN. I believe you could catch it on Netflix as well, about Michael Jordan, kind of his journey to get to where he ended up, and kind of the finals of the 1998 season and how they ended up being champions in the end. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check that out, you have our website on the screen that you're looking at right now, anchor.fm/Let's Debate. While you're doing that, check out our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, anything you want to do there. And if you're looking to add to your wardrobe a little bit, head over to the shop, which you could also find on the screen. But yeah, I think we have an exciting episode this week as well. And if Nick wants to jump into that, go ahead.
You know, I say it every week, but every week you get better and better at plugging everything. It's so easy. It makes my life so much easier. So I truly appreciate that. Again, like Kyle said, find our website. Now everything is listed on our Delahanty Media site. So if you want to check out the Anchor site, that's cool. You want to check out the main site, check out everything else, that's even better. I just did a new Pinstripe Talk episode earlier this week, so check that out as well. And again, it's going to be a fun show. We have some, at this time, we really don't have much going on, and we're waiting for the players and the owners of Major League Baseball to stop arguing with each other and figure out a solution to how they're going to come back. But today we're going to do a little Major League Baseball trivia, and we have a bunch of questions we're going to go back and forth and kind of talk about. And I have a buddy who sent me a PowerPoint that he did for a trivia game that he ran on Zoom the other night. There's some questions, and now you might be thinking, oh, you already saw the questions. No. I was handed the questions about 10 minutes before the show, so I really didn't look at them. And we're going to try not to look like fools while we do these trivia questions, give them some good answers. So what's your confidence level going into this, Kyle?
I love sports history. Like I've always kind of admired that. But the thing is, I'm really not confident going into this. I feel like my three main sports are baseball, basketball, and football. And for some reason, I feel like baseball is the one where I'm probably, based on sports history, not like I don't know. I don't run too deep in that category. But it is regarding the Yankees, and it's pretty recent. So I feel like it's going to go to show if number one, if I've really followed them as much as I say I do, and number two, if I am able to have a good memory regarding those things. So what's your confidence level in it?
Listen, baseball, unlike you, I know you're more of a football and basketball guy, and if we do some trivia next week or the week after with those, I'm going to feel less confident like you are right now. Baseball is the sport that I follow the most, so I'm hoping that I don't look like a fool during this. I do a lot of research and things, so there are some questions regarding Major League Baseball. We're going to get into the Yankees later on. I'm really excited to go into that one because, let me tell you, one of these trivia polls that we found, the first question had me scratching my head, and I watch essentially any game I can. So let's jump right into it, shall we? And question number one has to deal with offensive side of the ball. What Major League player had the most hits from 2010 to 2019? You have any guesses on that? I know this is a new question, so I want to give you a second to think about this.
Most hits between 2010 2019.
Yeah, during this decade.
See, I don't want to say it's a tough one, but I said I'm not too confident going into this, so it's tough for me. I also feel like it's probably such an obvious answer.
I would say so too, but I'm torn. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm torn because there could be a couple of ways you have to think about this. Number one, you have to think who played that long during that span, and
between that whole gap.
who was that
Yeah.
good during that span?
You know what? I feel like my answer is probably wrong, but I'm gonna throw out. I don't even know if he played this entire length of time, but I'm gonna say Jose Altuve. I just feel like he hits the ball a lot. I don't really even know if he was playing in 2010 or 2011. So,
That's a solid answer. I'm thinking.
but it's wrong.
My first thought into this was Ichiro, but the way Ichiro kind of spiraled down toward the end of the decade made me go away from him. I'm gonna take a stab in the dark and go Pujols, Albert Pujols. There, I don't know. I don't know how if I'm right or wrong here, but I just think the longevity of Pujols and him being around, I just think he's got to be somewhere, if not up there on the leaderboard. All right, so you ready to see the answer to this bad boy? All right, the answer is, wow, you were right. It is an obvious name, and we're both going to slap ourselves for not knowing this. Robinson Cano.
I'm not going to lie. I was not expecting that. I mean, obviously, I know he's played that whole time, but I feel like even Robinson Cano's career kind of spiraled down a bit, too. I mean, he was hot in the beginning part of that decade, but I feel like the second half, he really wasn't around. But he's always been a good player. But there should be an asterisk there because PEDs.
Think about it, though. Like,
but it is
he was averaging 200 hits a year. He had 1,691 hits in a decade. So to take that into perspective, what he did in Seattle, he kind of got lost in the shuffle because obviously the PEDs and going to Seattle, you're not in the limelight of New York. But not surprised by the answer. But again, I think same thing. Got to put the asterisk next to that one. Now, question number 2. Sticking with the offense here. What major league player had the most home runs during the decade?
That's a tough one, too. See, I know you mentioned Pujols before, and he definitely could be up there, but I feel like his numbers in home runs has kind of went down a little bit. Like, if we were talking 2000, 2010, I feel like Pujols would definitely be in that category. 2010 to 2019 home runs.
This one I think I have an answer to, and it's because of research that I've done that I think I know this.
Wow.
This is probably the only time that both of us.
I'm gonna make myself look like a fool.
This is probably
today.
going to be the only time me and you didn't talk at some point during the show. So I think the audience should really embrace this kind of 10-second delay.
All right, this is definitely wrong, but I'm gonna say Bryce Harper. It's definitely wrong. Completely wrong. But I mean, he hits a lot of home runs. He's played. I believe wasn't his debut like right around that time, 2010, 2011?
I think somewhere around that point, maybe even later. But again, he's a guy that hits a lot of home runs. That could be.
Actually, you know what? I changed my answer. I'm gonna go Nelson Cruz.
That's who I'm going. Okay. I was between Nelson Cruz and Jose Bautista because Bautista had a monster start to the decade. Mm-hmm. I think Cruz is the ultimate answer. I don't know if we're right, but let's see. The answer is, wow, we got one right. Nelson Cruz.
Oh, wow. I'm glad I changed that. He popped into my head last minute because I know he's kind of one of those guys who quietly hits home runs.
Yeah,
he always has 30 plus to 40 plus home runs, and he doesn't really get talked about much because he's not a big name guy, and he's never really been on those very marketable teams. He's in Minnesota this past year, playoff team, but that whole team hit home runs. So once again, you're kind of just in the mix.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we got one right. That's the best part about it. And Cruz, he's one of those underrated type of hitters. The guy just puts the ball out of the ballpark. He really doesn't do much defensively, mostly as a DH. But when it comes to the long ball, he's one of the best in the game. Question number 3. 9 players in the history of Major League Baseball have hit 600 home runs. And don't mind me for not looking at the screen because I'm reading it off to the side of my iPad. 2 of them did not have a 50 home run season in their career. Collect 1 point for each of the 2 players you can name. So we're looking for 2 guys who have 600 plus home runs but never hit 50 or more in a season. I think I know this.
Okay. I'm going to go with one of them. One of them I'm going to say Ken Griffey Jr. I feel like he never hit 50 home runs in a
Junior,
season.
I think, did. I'm not 100% sure
Did
on
he?
that, but we'll have to wait and see with the answer, obviously. But Junior's
Yeah.
one. Who's your other one?
600 home runs.
There's only 9 guys in the history of baseball who have done it. Now, mind you, I can't think of the 9
Yeah.
off the top of my head, but the 2 that I'm thinking of, I know one is definite. Like 110% definite never hit 50.
I feel like the guy I'm going to name, I'm not even sure if he has 600. I believe this could be completely off. I think he's between 500 or 600, or he's nowhere near it. Jim Tomei?
I don't know if Tomei ever got to 6. I know he's over 5, but I don't know. He might be over 6, but hey,
you know what? I'm just going to go with that
Tomei
one.
and Griffey?
Just because I feel like it's not expected. Like, I'm not really expecting it to be, but when you think of 600 home runs and you think the guy never hit over 50, that means that he was consistently hitting an unbelievable amount, all those years. So it could be
Okay,
him.
my first one is a definite. Like, I'm definitely getting a point for this one. Albert Pujols. I think his career high is 47 or 48. He never hit 50. I always wondered about that, how he didn't hit 50 home runs in Busch Stadium.
You know for sure he didn't? Because, like, I thought about him, but I could have sworn he hit 50 one year.
I'm like 95% sure on it that he's one of them. The second one I was thinking, it was between Aaron and Mays. Because I think that one of them never hit 50. But they both have over 600 homers. Aaron was definitely one that I think would probably have more of a chance to hit 50. But I'm going to go Mays. I'll go Mays and Pujols. All right, so let me find the answer here. The answer is... All right, so I was right about one. I got Pujols. Pujols never hit 50. And Aaron never hit 50 either. I thought Mays. I never thought...
So it was Pujols and Aaron?
Pujols and Aaron. So I got one at least. I thought Willie Mays never hit 50 home runs. Oh, well.
I mean, I think Willie Mays, based on like what I've seen and what I've heard, I feel like he might be the greatest baseball player of all time.
Yeah, he was really good. He had a great career. You look at those numbers, even Aaron too, like the consistency to be able to do what they did in such a long period of time. It's just really impressive to see. Now, this is good. We're going to the pitching side of things. I know you were a homegrown pitcher here, so this is up your alley. So, there are 3 pitchers to win the Rookie of the Year award and 2 Cy Young awards. Collect 1 point for each player you can name. Oh my God.
That's tough. So, 2 players, they both won Rookie of the Year and Cy Young in the same year,
3
or
players that won the Rookie of the Year award, but then won 2 Cy Young awards in their career.
Oh, okay.
I think I have 2. I don't know.
3 players. Okay.
But I think I have 2. The third, the one is a stab in the dark.
All right. I'm going to go. I feel like Justin Verlander was one of them.
That's an interesting one. Did he win the Rookie of the Year?
I think so, back in 06.
Wow,
I feel like he did.
That's a good one. I like that. That's a good one.
So I'm going to go him. I'm going to the next one I'm going to go with, I just feel like his resume is just, steroids or not. I feel like Roger Clemens might be in that category because it's Roger Clemens.
That was one of my 2. That was the one I was 50-50 on. I wasn't sure about him. I was a stab in the dark because of what I know about Clemens. But I think we're in agreement on that one. Who's your third?
I feel like the third, it'd be hard to not say his name. I'm going to go Nolan Ryan.
Wow, that's a good one too.
Like, I'm not sure. I'm sure he won 2 Cy Youngs. I just don't know if he won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you on Clemens, and I'm going to say that you're right about Verlander. I'm not going to take a guess on that one. But my third one is Jacob deGrom.
That's very possible. I mean, he's won 2 Cy Youngs.
The Rookie of the Year is the question. I know he's won 2. He won back-to-back Cy Youngs, but I don't know if he won the Rookie of the Year. But that was my guess on that one. So let's see what the answer is to question number 4. The answer is... Okay, so you got Verlander right. Good job. Nice job. I got deGrom right. So we got 2 out of 3. But the third one was Tom Seaver. Yeah, really? That's an interesting one.
Oh, that makes sense. That's interesting. there's two Mets players on that list. So, it's the best thing the Mets have ever done.
That's their World Series ring.
I'm
All
just
right,
kidding,
come
Mets
on, don't
fan.
make fun of them for that. But that was a good one. That we actually got 2 of the 3 there. So kudos to us. Very nicely done. Question number 5: Who is the only hitter to win the batting title in 3 different decades? Now, mind you, that's tough. You gotta be good for a long period of time.
Oh yeah, 3 different decades. Wow.
Wow.
I feel like this is gonna go way
I
back.
think so too. I'm thinking back in the day.
3 different. You got to think of someone who played that long.
Or started their
And I feel like one of the guys. I feel like one of the guys I'm thinking of is Willie Mays.
Mays might be.
He played a long time, like a long time. I don't know if he played into 3 different decades. Like it's definitely no. I think he played over like 20 something years.
So it all depends on the spacing out too, because you have to make sure you're in that. You
Yeah.
have to be really good at the beginning, at the end of a decade, and then be really good during
Exactly.
another decade, and be good at another decade. So it's kind of difficult.
I mean, it's very possible though, because if you really think about it, it could just be a 12-year span. Let's say you won a batting title in '99, you won in 2003, and then you won in 2011. You're in 3 different decades already. So you don't even need to really play that long. You just need to be playing at the right time. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, you're 100% right. I have 3 names that we could throw into the hat if you want to if we want to come up to an agreement on an answer here. I got 3 that I could think of that we could kind of narrow down. All right, so
Okay.
the first one's Ichiro, but he didn't play in 3 different decades, so I think we have to throw him out.
No.
The other 2 are Tony Gwynn and George Brett. I know they both won multiple batting titles, but I would say George Brett was more likely to play in more decades. I don't know if Gwynn played. Gwynn might have played one in 3 different decades.
I mean, that's tough. I feel like I'd probably go Glenn.
Let's go with Gwynn. We'll see what the answer is. I think that's a safe bet for that. Okay. It wasn't a safe bet because George Brett's the answer.
Oh man.
Okay, so we're not doing very good at this 50-50 type game here.
No.
Wow. Now this one, I'm definitely not getting this one right. You might be able to, but I'm definitely not. Who is the only pitcher to win a World Series game in 3 different decades? Not a championship, just a game.
3 different decades.
Your face says it all.
All right, so it's just a player who's won, or he's won 3 different games.
Yeah, he won a game in 3 different decades in the World Series.
And it doesn't matter. It's like not a pitcher or anything. Just won a game. You're on a team. Oh, it's a
The only pitcher
pitcher.
to win a World Series game in 3 different decades. Wow, that's a
I gotta start listening better.
That's a good
All right,
question.
So it's
though.
a pitcher. That's
Very.
tough. And repeat it one more
Okay.
time.
Who is the only pitcher to win a World Series game in 3 different decades?
Yeah, 3 different. Wow.
I was thinking Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, because he's played so long.
I don't know if he made it to that many World Series though.
That's one of the things I was thinking about. Like how many? I don't even know how many World Series he went to in the first place. I'm trying to think Yankees too, though.
It could possibly be a Yankee because of the history, but
Yeah.
wow.
I'll go Nolan Ryan.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I'm going to go Nolan Ryan too. I really can't think of who it was. And drum roll, please. The answer is, and we're both wrong. And this one I should have got right. Jim Palmer. He did play a long time.
No, I wasn't expecting
Me either. That's out of the ordinary on that one. Wow. But now we're getting into some Yankee trivia here. This is great. We're getting back on Yankee track. This is question number 7. 3 players
Okay.
won a World Series with both the Yankees and the Red Sox. Who were they? 2 are easy.
So 3 players that won
Yes,
a World
sir.
Series with the Yankees and the Red Sox.
We grew up watching one. Johnny
I'm
Damon's
losing. Oh,
that,
Johnny
he's gotta be
Damon.
one, hands down. And then
Yeah,
another one is so very easy. You'll know exactly who it is.
I know who you're talking about, and I have him. I see him. I know exactly who you're talking about.
You're thinking we never watched this
Oh
guy
my
play.
God.
You're thinking way back in the day.
Yeah, we didn't.
Babe Ruth is
Babe
one.
Ruth.
Now who's the third?
But there's another one. There's another one that. Do you have it in your mind? Because I see the guy. I can't get
He's
the
like a
name.
chubby guy.
Or maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
Okay, so there's somebody I'm thinking of
Oh
that
man.
played, I want to say in '09. That was like I want to say he was a corner infielder, but he was not very thin. He was a bigger set guy. Oh man, he played for a couple of different teams. I think he played for the Red Sox in 11 or 13. Man, who I can't think of the guy's name. I can't think
You
of
don't
it.
know the guy's name? You said he was on the team in
I
'09?
believe so.
I was thinking this guy is more in like the '80s.
I think '09, to be honest with you. I think that there was a utility player that moved around. I can't think of the guy's name. Watch, it's
Oh wait, hold on. I got one. Is this? I don't even know if this guy played for the Red Sox. Wade Boggs.
Boggs never won a World Series with the Red Sox because they had the 100-year.
Oh yeah, you're right. They
drought.
didn't win one. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. Wow. I forgot that they didn't win again until 04, 07, and 13.
All right, so this one's bothering
and
me,
18.
so I'm gonna go to the answer. All right,
Okay.
I knew this answer, and I couldn't think of it. Eric Hinsky.
Wow, I remember him.
Wait, let me show you the
Yeah,
picture that's
wow,
with it.
see, I
Hold on,
would've-
I gotta
I
pull the
rem-
iPad up, people. Look at the picture. He is not very thin. I was right. Just I didn't know the name.
No. I remember him. Like I remember him clear as day. I just wasn't thinking of him. Because you know what? He's not one of those players that really stands out. He wasn't a major contributor to either one of those, championship teams. He's kind of just there as a role player. So those guys don't really stand out
Absolutely.
as much.
You're 100% right about that. So we're going to get back into our trivia. We have question number 8. This one is about teams. So there are 2 teams who made 2 World Series appearances, but lost both of them. Who are the 2 teams?
And this is
No, this is Major League
Yankees
Baseball.
trivia?
2 teams in the history of Major
Major
League
League.
Baseball went to the World Series twice and lost. Both, actually. They've never won.
and they've never won, or they
never
lost
won in
back to back.
general.
Okay. I'm gonna say
it doesn't have to be back to back. It just has to be in general.
okay. Well, I'm gonna say one of them.
That's one I was
Texas
going to go
Rangers.
with.
They actually lost back to back. Yeah.
It doesn't
They
matter
lost
about the back to
back-to-back.
back though.
That was. No, I know. I'm just saying, like that. They also did. They lost
yeah,
twice,
true.
and it was back to back. In 2010 and 2011.
I
other
got the
team,
other one.
I'm gonna say Cleveland
The other
Indians.
one, the other one's easy because the Yankees beat them in one of the World Series. That's San Diego.
Okay.
Cleveland has a
Cleveland
World
won
Series
once?
title, or maybe they just don't fit
Do they?
the criteria of it because it had to be twice and lost twice. I don't know, but San Diego lost to the Yankees in what was it, '96? They lost to them, and I know that they don't have no 98.
98,
They
98.
don't have any other World Series. They don't have any World Series titles from what I understand. So you got Texas right? What?
But when? I'm sorry. And when did they
That
lose
I
the other
don't know.
time?
That's
though?
a good question. We're gonna have to look that up. We're gonna have to research that. We'll give everybody an answer
Yeah.
on next week's show.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so you got the one right. You got
Okay.
Texas. Good answer. I got San Diego. I just remember that because that was one of my favorite World Series. Given that the Padres had the Hall of Famers and Gwynn and Trevor Hoffman, everybody thought they were going to win that World Series, but too bad, they lost. Now, question number 9: which pitcher had the most wins from 2000 to 2009?
Wow. Pitcher, what, the most wins, 2000, 2009. There's so many pitchers.
I don't know. I'm gonna take a stab in the dark on this one when it's my chance to answer. I just have a guy in mind that always proves me wrong in terms of wins.
2000, 2009. I think I'm just going to take a wild guess on this one. I'm going to go. I don't think this is right. I'm going to go Roy
That's
Halladay.
a good answer.
I doubt it. I doubt it. I honestly doubt it, but I know a guy, he's a guy who dominated that whole stretch. And there's a lot of those guys. To be honest with you, one of the guys I was thinking of was Randy Johnson, but he didn't play that whole stretch, so you got to eliminate some years, you know?
The guy that stands out to me, and I don't know if it's right, but just from being a Yankee fan, is Pettit. I don't know, because Pettit played through 09. He was there for the whole. Yeah, he took a little brief stint where he didn't play, but he was pitching for the most part throughout that era, and he was on those Yankee teams that were good. I'm sure he racked up some wins. So I don't know if that's a legitimate answer, but I was thinking Pettit, and then the other one I was thinking was probably Halladay because he was so good too. So let's see.
Yeah. We'll see what it is.
I scroll to the bottom. Wow, it was right. Andy Pettit. Okay. That was a guy,
Nice.
And again, just like the hits, like it's longevity based. Like Cano was there for the whole decade. I guess you could pitch until your arm falls off and you're good to go.
So for me, the reason I never thought of Andy Pettit is because when I think of Pettit, as much as, he was one of those core Yankee guys when both of us were growing up. When I think Pettit, I think postseason. I'm not thinking regular season wins. I'm thinking how clutch he was in the postseason and in those must-win games and series clinching games. So that's interesting to know, though. I mean, that just adds to the resume he already has.
And that's a really good point too. Essentially, he was never the ace of a Yankee staff. He was always the guy in the middle of the rotation that gave you any. But come the postseason, he was that ace, and we all know him for the postseason resume. But at the end of the day, he was just as good in the regular season. And like I said earlier, the Yankees had some good teams in the 2000s. 2000, 2001. 2003, 2009, they all went to the World Series. So those 4 years, if you tally, say, 15 to 16 wins, that puts you ahead of the game right there. Now, the final question of this little questionnaire we have, and it wasn't too bad, was it?
No. I mean, I'm not prepared either, but they're tough questions. I mean, you got to realize there's so many players in baseball, and we're talking for some of these questions a decade long. You got to try to think, okay, who was dominant there? Who can I even remember was dominant there? Who played that length of time? So they're not easy questions. You could throw out any names you want. What I like is how, for a majority of these questions, though, we both have at least had, for the most part, someone in there. It's either I got something right or you got something right, or we mentioned him but weren't confident about the answer. So
it's a good thing that we're kind of on the same page and that we were able to get some answers in and out, because obviously it makes us look good that we're not completely ruining these questions by getting them wrong. So we're doing a solid job. But we still have we still got one more in this questionnaire to go. So let's not toot our horn yet. The final question.
Okay.
There were 4 players to play in all 10 All-Star games from 1990 to 1999. Get 1 point for each player. Wow.
Wow.
I think we mentioned 2 already.
You said 4 players. But you said 4 players who played in every All-Star game from 90 to 99?
We've already talked about 2 of the guys so far. Like on the show already.
Yeah. I'm going to say
Griffey was one that I toned in on right away too.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Because Gwynn was dominant during that era, so I would say Gwynn would be a 2.
You know what? I don't know if this guy started back in 90 or even before that. I don't think it was before that. I honestly think it was after 90, but I'm going to throw his name in there anyway. Chipper
Wow,
Jones.
that's a solid guess. I don't know. I think he came early '90s. I don't know about the early, like the very early part of it, but that's a
Yeah.
good guess on that. I
I mean, he was on the Braves.
they
They dominated the '90s. I mean, they couldn't win every time. They had to run into the Yankees a few times, but they had a good run, and we know how great Chipper Jones was. But I had to throw
one
his
guy
name
that
in
I
there.
think that we both would agree on is Ripken.
Oh yeah, I forget about Ripken so much because I never actually got to really see him play. So he's one of those guys that I feel like anytime I talk baseball, I just always forget about him, especially because I'm a Yankees fan and Jeter's my guy, so I stand by him when it comes to short stuff.
Listen, the Yankee fans might throw stuff at me, but I'm gonna say it. Cal Ripken is arguably my favorite third baseman of all time. I loved watching him play. He was a better shortstop than he was a third baseman, but at the end of the day, the guy was just resilient. He was great. He was fun to watch. I think we got 3 of the 4 because we got Griffey, I think, Gwynn, definitely, and Ripken, I think, is a definite. Do you have any more guesses for the? You want to stick with Chipper for the last one?
No, I'm not gonna. I'll throw in one more. I'm not. Once again, I'm not sure if this guy played every single season in the '90s.
Wow.
I'm gonna throw in a pitcher. I'm gonna go Randy Johnson. I mean, once again, I didn't watch '90s baseball, but I know he dominated. He had a nice career. I don't think this is gonna be right, but might as well throw him in. Whatever.
I'm glad you threw the pitcher in there, and I think that Johnson's a good guess. I'm going to throw one more in the hat. I don't know how accurate I am. I could be 100% wrong, but I'm going to say Barry Bonds. I don't know.
Oh wow,
I don't know
yeah.
if Bonds played in all 9, but we'll have to just wait and see. All right. So here's the answer.
Let's check
The
it out.
answer is, wow, we got 3 out of 4 right. We got Griffey, Gwynn, and Ripken.
Okay.
The 4th one, this is a surprise. Roberto Alomar.
I mean, Alomar was a good player. He was on that '97 Indians team that lost the World Series. I didn't know he made every All-Star appearance like all those years. I didn't know he was that good. Especially a guy, he played into the 2000s as well. Like I remember watching when I grew up too. So to think he was that good for that long. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, I believe, though, right?
He was good, but he was always, in my opinion, one of the guys you really didn't talk about, especially given that '90s, that late '90s, where you had the steroid era going through, and all those guys were getting the attention. He was a good ball player.
Mm-hmm. He was. I remember he had a little bit of time on the Mets. That's when I saw him growing up, him being on the Mets. But I think the thing that stands out with him most is when he spit in the umpire's face. Like, unfortunately, that's something that you got to bring up when you talk Roberto Alomar.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here, okay? These are mostly questions from 2010 to 2019. So we're going to jump to our era, mostly from watching baseball. So I want you to give me a guess on who had the most RBIs from 2010 to 2019. If you get one of the top 2, I'll give you a point for it. I already know the answer, so I'm not going to obviously guess.
Wow.
Here's a hint. We talked about the top
RBI,
2 RBI guys on the show already.
2010 to 2000. Well, this is a stretch, but considering he had the most hits, I'm going to say, no, you know what? Oh, man, that is tough. I'm just going to say...
Pujols is correct.
Pujols?
He had 963
Okay, cool.
RBIs, and he beat the guy in second by two RBIs. Any guess on who that guy was? No.
Is that
think
Cano?
about other guys we talked about in the show. Think
Okay.
about somebody with a lot of power. Nelson Cruz.
Nelson
is
Cruz.
correct. Exactly.
Because they're the home run guys. That's what it comes down to. And I've always loved Albert Pujols. You know, it's crazy to think how he's dominated that long. Like, seriously, I mean, growing up, he was dominating. And the fact that you're telling me he's the RBI leader from just this past decade, like that,
it's crazy.
that's unbelievable.
Right? Now, the next question I have for you: who had the most wins from 2010 to 2019? And let me give you a little tip. The top two guys are separated by 1 win, and at one point in their careers, they were teammates.
Wow.
Yes,
2010 to 2019. Wins leaders, at one point they were teammates.
They were American League teammates.
Wow.
I'll give you that.
I think I have an idea of who it is. But I'm not. I'm going to say one of them, CC. No? Because, no, yeah. You know who I was thinking of, but it's just completely off because I was going to say Cliff Lee, but he spiraled down years ago. But they were teammates in the AL. Wow.
Verlander?
But I'm trying to think of a teammate he had.
Yeah,
It is, really? And there's a teammate that he had. Oh, wow.
No,
are they teammates right now?
They were actually opponents in the World Series.
Wow. Why am I not? Oh, I got it. Wow. Justin Verlander and Scherzer.
That's it. Max Scherzer had 161 wins, and Verlander had 160. They were both teammates with the Tigers way back in the day. So crazy to see how they've.
I can't believe I didn't think of that. You know why? It's like Scherzer. I almost forget he was a Tiger because he's just dominated with Washington. So you just think like, okay, well he's dominating NL, Washington. You forget he dominated in Detroit too. And what's crazy about that is you have two pitchers like that, and they just couldn't win a championship.
And then everybody made fun of the Nationals for signing Scherzer to that big deal, and in reality, they knew something everybody didn't because he was a decent pitcher at the time. He really took a step forward once he got into Washington. So good for him and Verlander. They both got their money and whatnot, and they were teammates, and they led the league in wins for that decade.
Well, we're seeing a little bit of that, or we were seeing a little bit of that in Houston, the dominance of Verlander and Cole and guys like that. But weirdly enough, like those teams just, and it's weird to say. I feel like the last team that really stands out that had two dominant pitchers that really were able to win was Arizona way back in 2001 with Johnson and Schilling, because a lot of these teams with these loaded pitching staffs, you even go back to the 90s with Maddox, Smoltz, and Glavine, they couldn't get the job done. And Houston just this past year with Verlander, Cole, and Greinke, I don't understand it, but these teams with loaded rotations just have a hard time.
Yeah, it's a good argument to make, and it's a good point to bring up. Not just because you have the best rotation doesn't mean you're going to win games or you're going to win the World Series. Look at this year. You had the Nationals and the Astros, who arguably had the best pitching staffs in baseball. One of them has to lose. And Glavine, Smoltz, and Maddox ran into the Yankees a couple of times. They couldn't get the job done either, and that's 3 Hall of Famers. So just because you have 3 good pitchers or 4 good pitchers doesn't necessarily translate to World Series titles. Now, next question. Same decade, lowest ERA. Give me the top 2. They're both National League guys. Kershaw is 1.
Kershaw.
Considering how bad he's been in the last couple of years, the fact that his ERA was 2.31 is amazing to me.
Oh, yeah. He's always been known for the low ERA. If he was able to just pick up in the playoffs, different story, but guy has a tough time there. The other one, I'm not confident in this one because he definitely hasn't played as long, but I know the ERA has been phenomenal. DeGrom.
You got it. Nice job.
Nice.
I like this.
Yeah. That was a tough one because, like I said, he hasn't played as long. He probably played about dominated really half the decade. So when you have to take out 5 of those years, but I know, as a Yankee fan, I would have liked if he came over to our side of the city, but we weren't able to get that
without
done.
a doubt. Now we'll stick to the pitchers for one more, and we'll ask you who had the most saves during the decade. There's two guys who had over 300 saves, and don't say Aroldis Chapman. I'm going to throw him out. He does not have 300 saves, so I'll save you a guess there. One of them is pretty relatively easy, I would think. I don't know about you, but I think that one of them's easy. No, Mo.
Is it Mo? I was gonna, because the thing is, I wasn't thinking Mo because I know he didn't really play much of the decade, but you kept saying it's easy, so I'm like, if I don't say him, I'm gonna look even dumber.
No, it's not Mo. You're good.
Yeah. Wow, closers though. Yeah, Chapman. That's one that definitely comes to mind.
Kimbrel is the top one at 346. That's the easy one in my mind. The other one is in the National League. It doesn't get as much love as he really should.
The guy I'm thinking of, I feel like he didn't really play as long, so I'm going to hold on that. Trying to think of the teams real quick.
Next time we do this, I need to add the Jeopardy music.
Yeah, that would definitely give people... Well, it would add more, dramatic effect, but... I'm going to throw in... I feel like this is going to be wrong. The kid from L.A.
Jansen, right?
Dodgers.
That's the second one. He had 301 saves. I'm impressed.
Really? Wow.
Very impressed, Kyle. You're doing a great job here. You're showing that this is fantastic. Look at you go. I thought I maybe would be able to stump you, but you're right on track. Now, I think that this one's going to be easy.
All right.
The highest WAR, which is win above replacement in the decade. Trout is the right answer at 72.8. And let's remember, he didn't debut till 2011, didn't play a full year till 2012, and still dominated the era. So
he's
now, if you get
unbelievable.
this next, go ahead, go with your point. I want to hear this.
No, Trout is going to be the guy we're talking about to generations to come, and he's literally unbelievable. His stats match up so much to guys that people have been talking about for 50, 60 years now, and as much as we talk about him, we don't talk about it enough. It's going to be one of those things where 20 years down the line, you look back and you say, wow. And the fact that he's still so young, he's fun to watch. It's unfortunate that he's on a team like the Angels right now who really haven't been able to contend, because I think everyone, just as baseball fans, would love to see him in the postseason.
It's a shame that Major League Baseball doesn't advertise this guy enough. The NBA advertises LeBron. Yeah. The NFL, you could name a couple of guys they advertise. The Tom Brady's, even go back to the Peyton Mannings, right? You don't hear about Trout. They should be making an effort to get the Angels on national television every chance you get. Give them day games. In the middle of the afternoon, put a 5 o'clock game on or a 6 o'clock game so that people can watch. I don't understand why we're not advertising this guy.
Yeah. They make a lot of dumb decisions, these leagues, but... it's their league to run, so we're just here to watch.
Now, if you get this answer right, I personally will buy you dinner because I think this is an extremely hard one. Who played the most games during the decade?
Wow. Yeah. you gotta think
that's
injuries too. Who's the Iron Man of this decade? Or last decade.
I have a feeling you're not going to get this one right.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't talked about him. Because the guy I'm thinking of, we talked about, but I feel like there's
this guy hasn't been
involved
in the conversation at all during this show.
Wow.
Spent some time in the American League, then he's currently in the National League. He's an outfielder, if that helps.
Wow. Spent some time there. He's in the National League now. I'm trying to think of the teams in the NL. You know what? I didn't give it too much thought. As much as it seems like I'm thinking, I only got to like 2 teams in the NL. I'm gonna go
That
Nick
was who I
Markakis.
thought originally. That was a really good guess, but it was
Okay.
one of his former
Yeah.
teammates. That's the right answer.
One of his former teammates.
Adam
Oh
Jones.
wow, Adam Jones.
1,499 games.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? It's close enough. No one thinks about
nobody
the
does.
Orioles.
They've produced some good players. Think of Machado, Adam Jones, Markakis. Like Brian Roberts was a decent player. They had some good talent that they just stink as a team.
Them along with the Oakland Athletics earlier on in this decade, they actually had really, really good young cores, but they're not a big market. Like they just don't have the money to keep those guys, and that's just what happens. Like they kind of had their window and they couldn't win during it, and the window closed. If you take a look back at those 2 rosters, they just couldn't get the job done. Another one of those teams is actually Kansas City. They were able to get the job done. So it's interesting because like those smaller market teams, like look at them now. There's gonna be players on there you're gonna be talking about in a few years. It's literally the cycle that those teams go through. You get good players, you can't afford them, and they leave. You can almost throw in the Mets too.
Yeah, without a doubt, those teams. And that's the
Big
problem.
market,
You have
but-
these big market teams that will outpay these teams for these players, and they can't stay afloat. Look at Tampa Bay. Look at what they've been able to do. They've had some great players, and they just can't afford to keep them because of revenue. Oakland, you had some good pitchers. Sonny Gray was one of the best pitchers in the game when he was there. They couldn't afford to keep him if he was going to get a big deal. You have these teams, even like the Mets, you're in a big market, but they don't seem to overspend anymore like they used to. So it's a whole different ball game, and it's a big part of the game as to why some of these teams can't compete. I got 2 more for you. When you know your point.
I was just gonna real quick. Tampa's another good one too. Like back in 2008 when they went to the World Series, great young core, but they can't afford those guys. And you mentioned Sonny Gray. It's unfortunate that Sonny, got cloudy when he came to New York, but it is what it is. But you can ask
You're
your question.
100% right. And the Rays continue to win 90 games a year. I don't know how they do it. They've been really good recently. The last 2 I have for you, one I think is going to be very easy. The other one, it's kind of in the middle. So, who is the only player in Major League history to lead the league in shutouts for both leagues in the same season? So, let me just give you a little explanation. The player had to play in the American League and the National League, and had to lead both leagues in shutouts. I think you'll get this.
Okay.
One. I really do.
I'm gonna go
No.
Scherzer.
It's not Scherzer.
It's not Scherzer.
Think this pitcher was traded to the National League and helped this team get to the playoffs, and kind of was like a workhorse. Only spent that half a year with them. And then he signed elsewhere.
Cliff Lee.
No, you're
Cliff
getting
Lee?
okay. You're getting closer. You got left-hander.
Oh my God.
You mentioned this guy earlier in the show.
Left-hander. Yeah, I feel like not
No,
Roy
lefty.
Halladay. That's tough. I feel like it's not tough, but got traded to the NL, spent half a year there.
CC
Oh,
Sabathia in
CeCe.
2008.
Yeah,
CC was 6-9 with the Indians, and then he went over to the Brewers and helped them make the playoffs. And he was pitching
Brewers.
every other day, it seemed like. And then he signed with the Yankees that offseason.
oh yeah. He absolutely dominated like that stretch that you were just mentioning, because I remember I remember him getting traded. Once again, another team, Indians. They don't have the money. They got to get rid of those guys, And they had him and Cliff Lee, and they couldn't hang on to him. And we're starting to see the same thing right now. We don't know what's going to happen with Lindor, but that's a topic for another day.
Hopefully Lindor ends up in pinstripes, because that would be ideal, But CC, when he got traded to Milwaukee, I was the happiest person alive. Why? Because we knew Milwaukee wasn't going to pay him. We knew that Milwaukee wasn't going to be a spot where he wanted to go. So New York was the obvious landing choice for him, unless he went to the West Coast. And going to Milwaukee just opened that up for the Yankees. Now, final question that I have. There is one player in Major League Baseball history to hit a home run and score a touchdown in the NFL in the same week. Who was that player?
Was that
Deion Sanders.
Deion?
Good job. September 5th, he hit a home run for the Yankees. And then September 9th, he was returning a punt for the Atlanta Falcons and scored a touchdown. So the only time that has happened in Major League Baseball history.
I mean, look, want to talk about crazy athletes, Deion Sanders. First of all, I don't even know how he made that work, going from sport to sport. Obviously, there couldn't be too much practice time in one of the sports, especially a sport like baseball. You know, football's a little different. You need to practice throughout the week, and you have one game during the week. But when you're trying to also balance that with a sport like baseball, but even basketball, you play multiple times in a week, especially in baseball. So that's impressive. I've always been interested in knowing or seeing if we're going to see a player like that again, because it's been so many years since then. But I actually have a few questions for you as well. And these could be real
They're
easy.
not going to be easy.
We'll see. All right. They might be. All right. So, first one. What's the one team since 2000 who has gone to 2 World Series and lost both times?
That would be, wouldn't that be Texas?
Yeah, we mentioned it before, so I was going to say it's probably not that difficult.
That's a good thing. That was a good test to see if I listen. I was paying attention. Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't remember that going into the show, but I listened. I give myself a gold star for the day.
There you go.
All right,
I got another one. This one could be real easy too, but Yankees. What year this is probably really easy. What year did Derek Jeter officially become the captain?
Wow, that's a tough one. Oh my goodness. Was it in the 90s? It was past the 90s. It was in 2000s?
No. Yeah. Which is interesting because it was years after they had, dominated the 90s.
I want to say 2004? It was
2003.
I wasn't sure by the year. I didn't know if it was after the Marlins year. I remember that it was later because they were always saying that after Mattingly, they weren't going to name a captain. And Mattingly retired in what, 90, 93, 94, 95, whatever it happened to be. So I knew they were going to wait, but
it might have been. Yeah,
but that's interesting. I didn't realize it was that it was 03 after that run. You would have thought they would have did it earlier.
Yeah, I think they figured, you know what, in the middle of that run, they had a lot of good players, but he was one of those core pieces. And then they just dominated from 96 to, you could even throw in 04. They just dominated. I think there was 1 year, maybe 2 years of that whole stretch where they didn't at least make the ALCS. And Jeter was one of those core guys, clutch all the time. And I guess they figured during that, you know what, why don't we make – he had everything you would want in a captain. So you named him that. And now I know Yankee fans are sitting here now wondering, does that happen again? Like, is a guy like Judge ever going to be captain? But what I try to tell people a lot based on that question alone is look what Jeter had to do to even become captain. Judge just started, and we haven't won a World Series. He hasn't won an MVP, even though he should have. So there's a lot that goes into it. Like, if he's going to be named captain, he needs to step it up for years to come. Like, they don't just hand that out like some teams do. But I got another question for you as well.
Before you give me that question, I'm going to make a bold statement.
Yeah.
We're never going to see another Yankees captain. I think that's it.
Really?
I don't think that after Jeter, I don't think that anybody can live up to that, and I don't think they want to put pressure on anybody to live up to that hype. And if they do decide to name a captain, it's not going to be Aaron Judge. It's going to be Gleyber Torres.
He's like the second guy that comes to mind for sure. Like, you hear so much about Judge, but Torres is younger, the way he's been playing lately. But you know what? They may never name a captain. You made a good point. There's so much to live up to. And Jeter, he didn't just, meet the expectations. He pretty much surpassed everything that you could have asked for. I mean, it's Derek Jeter. He's one of the most decorated players of all time. But this is my final question. Who is the last player Not It doesn't have to be a Yankee. It could be anyone. Who is the last player to hit a home run at the old Yankee Stadium?
Oh, I know this. Oh man, I can't think of it. Oh, wow. It's. I want to say it's a catcher. Then it's
Yep.
Molina.
Catcher.
Jose.
Which one? Yep. Jose Molina. No one remembers that. I remember watching that final game, and they kept talking about it, like who's going to hit the last home run in Yankee Stadium, and everyone was just hoping it. Hopefully, it was at least a Yankee. And out of all people, it was Jose Molina. Out of all people, the backup catcher. Um, the unfortunate part, about that season was that team just couldn't get to the postseason. But it was almost fitting. It's almost like it happened for a reason, because the closing of the old Yankee Stadium was like this, monumental moment, or a big moment. And basically, if you're in the postseason, you never know when that final game could be, but everyone knew when the final game could be. So it's weird. The Yankees don't miss the postseason much, but the year they were closing that stadium, we did. So everyone knew to kind of tune in and take in that moment, which was awesome. And the same goes for Derek Jeter's final game in Yankee Stadium. If that happened in the postseason, you'd kind of be watching. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? It gave us all a chance to really tune in and take in that moment as well. And in typical Jeter fashion, he made that an historic moment in itself. So
Now, a couple of points off of what you said there. First and foremost, that closing of the Yankee Stadium couldn't have been better. But also, it affected them moving forward, because do they spend all that money that offseason on players like CC, Burnett, and Teixeira if they do make the playoffs? Do they think they need that kind of reinforcements to help bring them a championship? That's a question that I think is never going to be answered, but it's something to take into consideration. And again, that Jeter moment, I was there at Yankee Stadium for that game. First of all, I don't think anybody moved from the first inning on. I think that everybody just stayed where they were. And then even after the game ended at, I believe it was 10. It was like 10:48 or 10:49. The game ended. We didn't leave the stadium till about 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, everybody was just sitting there waiting, watching the press conference on the screen, waiting for him to come back out, waiting to see what was going to happen. Nobody moved. It was like the one time that the game ended, the Yankees win, and nobody left the stadium. It was unbelievable. It was just one of those moments that you'll never forget.
oh yeah, and that's awesome. Like that you were there. I honestly, because I believe it was that same year we actually went to Yankee Stadium earlier that year. I think it was for Father's Day with our fathers. I'm almost positive of that, because I have a picture of Jeter on my phone, because I was like, you know what, this could be the last time that I see him on the field. So I have that picture. But unbelievable moment. It's going to go down in it already is down in Yankees history. I don't think we'll ever see another player like Jeter. And it's like you said, that I guess just being at that game must have just been different. I know I didn't leave the couch when I was watching that game. My phone's ringing. But I didn't leave the couch, and if I was at the stadium, I probably wouldn't have moved either. You want to take in as much of that that time as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one of those moments. And we did go that year for Father's Day. That was a fun time. I still have pictures on my phone from that as well. But I got to say, this was a lot of fun. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking that maybe next week we got to go back into this in another sport. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. Definitely next week I'll have to come better prepared and do a little bit more research in general. But like I mentioned earlier, I feel like we didn't get every single answer right, but for the most part, we were kind of in that range. The one example is the Markakis one. I said Markakis ended up being his teammate. We mentioned certain guys where if we needed to have 3 answers, we maybe get 2 of them. So we weren't completely off with our guesses, but I had a lot of fun doing this. I'm definitely open to do basketball or football next week and come in with some really good questions. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know what it does? It gives you kind of a look back at some of the things that we watched, and that some of the things we didn't even watch. And we were, like you said, we were very close on a lot of the answers. So it was good. It was fun, and we didn't completely make fools of ourselves. Heading into next week, whichever sport it may be, whether it's football, basketball, rugby, whatever we decide, I definitely will have to do some research, because I don't want to look like a fool. Baseball is kind of my forte there, so a lot of the things I was kind of able to make a connection to. But it was a lot of fun, and I look forward to doing this again next week.
Yeah, and these are topics you pretty much need to bring up right now. I mean, sports just they're on pause right now. You need to figure out things, and if you've been watching Sports Center the past few months now, they're kind of always going back at older highlights and going back at sports history because that's all we could do at this point. But it's fun talking about these things. I've always been a trivia guy, whether it's sports or not. I think sports. This is going to sound bad because we didn't do so well today, but if I'm going to do any trivia, it would be sports related. But whether you get the answers right or wrong, it's just fun taking a guess. And the fact that we didn't get all of them right, the fact that we were kind of even in that range when they're not easy questions to answer, goes to show how much we've, devoted our lives to sports, whether playing or watching. And yeah,
It's safe to say we're sports junkies, and we enjoy doing this show every week. A reminder to everybody, find us on social media. You already found us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. Keep interacting with us. We'll be back next week with a live episode on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Again, visit our store listed above. There's a lot of great stuff on there. And check out our new website, which is listed below. Go to that link. Everything is there available for you. I can't stress that enough. Whether you want to listen to the Pinstripe Talk podcast, the Let's Debate podcast, which we're doing right now, it's all there available for you. There's a lot of good opportunities for you to check things out. That's probably the easiest outlet for you to figure out where to find our content. We're going to keep pushing out content. We hope that you stick along for the ride. Any final thoughts, Kyle?
No, I mean, you covered pretty much everything there. I had a really good time doing this. I'm looking forward to next week, whether it's basketball or football. If people are watching live right now or are going to be listening at a later date, make sure to tune in next week and bring some questions. Bring some questions you might want to hear us answer. And at the same time, feel free to comment on some of the questions that we're asking ourselves and see if you get the answer correct as well. And I guess the goal for next week's episode is going to be for Thursday at 8 p.m. But obviously we'll have to see how our schedules work out in the next week. So aside from that, I had a great time. I'm looking forward to next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless of what our schedules look like, we'll figure out a way to bring you guys new content. So make sure you stick with us. And again, that's Kyle Delahanty. I'm Nick Delahanty. And this is another episode of the Let's Debate podcast. We're wrapping up for today. We hope everybody's doing well. Surviving quarantine, we hope the best. We send our best wishes to everybody. Hopefully everybody's healthy and happy at this time. Until next week, we'll see you here at the Let's Debate podcast, powered by Delahanty Media.